and bring in a whole lot of people. I'm trying to bring in multiple people at once this time around. We did have a few 1v1s here, but some folks just be dragging it sometimes. Oh, what's going on, Shelbo? Welcome back. Thank you very much. Tapping away. Appreciate you. Thank you for the gift. Thank you for the gift. If you're liking what you're hearing so far, please by all means provide a gift. There is a gift goal above. And also, if you would like to be extra generous, my Cash App and my PayPal are in my link tree in my bio. All donations will be going towards. Said we are on to our next caller, Rico.
But close enough.
Oh, Rico. Sorry.
Yeah,
excuse me. Rico.
No worries. Thank you for having me on your panel tonight. I appreciate it.
No problem. How can I help you?
Can we do white people cannot experience racism?
All right, sure. What do you think? That's something you disagree with?
Yeah, so I think that this will just come down to a semantic distinction, that you will say that racism has to be prejudice plus power. And I'm just going to reject that immediately and ask you, why is it that I should accept that definition instead of accepting the definition that prejudice towards somebody based just on race is racism? Why isn't that the better definition?
So are you assuming that I'm automatically going to say racism is prejudice and power?
Yes, I am.
What is the definition of racism, sir?
I just gave it to you. I think it's prejudice based specifically upon racial categorizations.
Right, and that's what you assumed I was going to say.
No, I assumed that you would say that it's prejudice plus power.
No, I would read the actual definition from Oxford Languages.
Go ahead and read it.
So it says prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism by an individual, community, or institution against a person or people in the basis of their membership in a particular racial or ethnic group, typically one that is a minority or marginalized.
So then how come, even by that definition, then why can't white people experience racism? That's bizarre. Based on that definition, they can. Well, that's not what the definition says. It doesn't say you have to be marginalized.
No. I didn't say have to be.
Well, then
they can be marginalized.
That's not a criteria.
Are white people?
Yeah,
are white people being marginalized?
Yeah, that wouldn't matter to the definition.
That it quite literally matters to the definition.
Read the definition again. Most often, not must be.
This says typically one that means, is a minority.
Yeah, typically doesn't mean necessity.
You know, another word for typically is usually, right? So
but
the common
so
notion,
not necessity then?
Say what?
So not necessity? Typically.
Where
typically is not necessity.
Usually.
Yeah, that's not necessity. Which means it's not a necessary conditional of racism. Only that it's a typical one. No one said it had to be. Then let's read the rest of the definition.
No, so Rico, hold on. So no one is saying it has to be a necessity. No one said that at all.
Then why are you bringing it up? Then why are you bringing it up?
That's literally part of definition. That's the whole definition.
Yeah, but
it's saying that commonly, it's essentially saying commonly, it is going to be a minority group or marginalized. That's nice. What that means.
But it's not a necessity.
It's commonly So again, right, when it comes to the whole definition here, when we say prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism, right, those three things combined by an individual, community, or institute, right? Yeah. So that can include one small group of white people, that can include an entire country, or that can include an institution such as our government. Or it can include a singular person. Against a person or people on the basis of their membership in a particular racial or ethnic group.
Why can't that include an individual?
It literally says individual.
Yeah, so then why can't individual. So then if a black person, or I'm sorry, BLK person is making racial remarks towards a white T person, then that would be the white T person experiencing racism.
So what racial remarks have a black person said to a white person?
C word, for instance.
Huh?
The C word.
The C word?
Yeah.
What C word?
Like Ritz. They call them Ritz, right? Another name for Ritz, it's a type of...
Cracker?
Yeah.
Cracker is not a racial slur.
Well, I think that YT people perceive it as being one.
Why do they perceive it as being a racial slur?
Well, it doesn't really matter.
Black
They
people?
do think it is, and so therefore it is. Racial slurs are only going to be conceptualized by the people who are using them against.
So they do think it is. So that's their feelings.
Well,
They feel it's a racist slur.
All of it's based around feelings, sir. No matter which side you're on.
No, it's not.
Yes,
that's not
it
how
is.
that works at all.
Yeah, well,
that's not how that works.
Then let me give you an example. Okay, if you were a person who didn't understand, if you were a black person, let's say, who didn't understand what the N-word meant, right? How could you have any feelings that it was racial or not racial?
So again, this goes back to the origin of a slur, right?
That's the etymology of a word. It has no bearing on the perception of the word.
The word cracker quite literally has no bearing, no weight to calling somebody.
If I believe that
there's no weight.
If you're saying it to me in order to make a comment about me racially, which is a slur, then that is a racist slur, sir.
What is the origin of cracker?
The etymology wouldn't matter in this context.
It absolutely
Why?
matters.
Why would it matter?
What is the origin of cracker?
Why would it matter if you're using a racially charged slur towards a person? Why would the etymology matter?
Rico. History and context absolutely matters.
Why?
The reason
why would it matter here? This is just an appeal to authority.
Can I explain it to you?
Yeah.
Okay, then here we go. So first off, cracker started out as a classist term. That was a classist slur, right? For rich white people, for poor white people. Long before Europeans came to the Americas and started using slaves, right?
I'll grant it. Go ahead.
There was something called indentured servitude up north in the European areas, right? Where you had a lot of poor white people trying to earn the scraps from the hardship jobs that they were working for rich white people. And even then, they were calling the poor white people crackers, right? Now, when they got to America and they did their little genocide on indigenous people and then got lazy, couldn't pick their own cotton, so they decided to travel the seas again and start to enslave Africans and bring them over to, America, right? They established the race as the hierarchy of privilege based off of their skin color and complexion. But what never changed was the classism amongst rich and poor white people. Because what happened was those lazy rich white people started having their slaves building their houses, their mansions, their cities and stuff like that. But the jobs that they mostly gave for the whipmaster, the slave patrol, those were the poor white people. And even then, they were still being called crackers, right? And even then, when it came to, the crack of a whip, from the whipmaster, the torturer, the disciplinary of the slaves, that's where it came from. That's why slaves also started calling the whipmaster cracker, right? So it has nothing to do with the skin color. It has to do with the fact that it was prominently poor white people having the job of catching slaves and torturing slaves and having to whip slaves. So that's where that came from. Right, that's what that is.
Except you're omitting a very key point here, which is that by the 1940s, particularly during the Great Migration, the term took on a new meaning in African American communities. It was used to refer to bigoted white people in the South, and it was used as a racially charged slur.
Bigoted white people in the South? You mean the poor white people that were initially slave patrol, right?
Sure, but what they're doing is they're using it as a racially charged slur, sir. That's when the context changed.
How is that racially charged?
Because they meant it to only mean you're a white low-class person. That therefore that's racially charged.
That's classist.
Then why wouldn't they just say you're a poor person?
Because cracker was already there.
That makes no sense. Why would they include that it was YT specific if it wasn't racially charged, sir?
Hold on.
That makes no sense. That makes no sense.
Rico,
sir,
you're in my ear. Relax.
Sir, I would like an answer to my question.
Rico, I need you to calm down, right?
I already know it.
I am going to answer your question. I already, so just so we're clear, right?
Yeah.
Racism is not classism. The fact that you even brought up the Great Depression and all that matter literally proves my point, how the wealth and poor gap literally grew even significantly more. So there were lesser rich people that were getting more rich off the Great Depression, calling more poor white people crackers. And black people simply just adapted that because they were still being bigoted,
Yeah,
poor
but
white people.
different groups mean things differently. For instance, the N word with the A on the end means something completely different to the African American community than when whitey people say it, and then with the hard R as well, it means something totally different. When you
So,
use a chart, hang on, let me make the argument. If it's the case that you are loading this term with a racial categorization, YT poor people equals C word, then what you're doing there is you're creating a racial categorization and it's a racial slur. I don't see how you
That's
could
not-
ever get around
that's
it.
not-
Then why
that's
does it
not-
only include
that's
YT people?
not.
Then why isn't it for
Rico,
Mexicans, sir?
Rico.
Why is it only for
Rico,
YT
Rico,
people? Why don't they call
Rico,
Mexicans
Rico,
crackers, sir?
Rico. You're crashing out. Relax.
Just answer the
So
question,
again,
dude.
Right? That slur was meant for poor white people. You literally
Yes,
just said
it's
it out your
racially
own mouth.
charged,
They're
yes.
poor. It's rooted in classism. It's poor.
Who cares what it's
Poor white
rooted in? I
people
already-
are called
so,
crackers.
again-
And let's be very clear about something. Mexicans have their own slurs. Chinese people have their own slurs.
Yeah, I agree.
Which a lot of white people came up
Are
with
those
themselves
racist?
based
Are
off
those
of their
racist slurs?
based off their
Are those
ethnicities.
racist slurs?
They have their own complete different
Are
slurs
those
that white
racist
people have
slurs?
used, but it was only ever white people that used cracker.
Are those
for poor
racist
white
slurs?
people.
Those other slurs, are those
What's-
racist? Those other slurs used for other
Me-
races?
for Mexicans and Asians?
Yeah.
Obviously.
Okay, so then
Because
why
they-
is it when
so
you
because they-
charge those with a racial categorization, are those made racist? But somehow when this is charged with a racial categorization, meaning it's meant to specifically attack you for being white and poor, why is that not now a racial slur, sir?
So now we can get into that, right? There's a distinct difference because of that. It's called dehumanization. And what I mean by that is we see time and time again that there were certain slurs being used for people of color, including black and brown folks, in which there were also laws set up that said that black and brown people were lesser than human, quite literally known as the 3/5 compromise, right? The difference in dehumanization compared to black folks, compared to
No,
poor
that
white
was for
folks. You wanna
poor,
know-
dude. That
Be-
was for voting purposes, so that the North wasn't outvoted by the South. Give me a break. What are you talking about?
So they made the slaves 3/5 to give the South
no,
slave owners a
what
one up.
what the whole purpose of that was to try to make sure that the South could not rule over the North because they had
So
so
who did
many
they-
slaves.
So that's why they made the slaves 3/5.
Yes, I agree. It was, but it was about
So then what the
voting.
hell?
It was about voting. That was what the classification was for.
So hold on. Stop. Let's be clear. It was not just about voting, right? Because even after the South got their little one up, their little help in Congress, people still used that law to justify the state-sanctioned violence that they committed on slaves and black people.
Yeah, southern
they were
states,
literally considered
southern states.
3/5.
Yeah,
they were
I know.
literally considered. They were literally considered 3/5 of a person.
Yeah, but
And
nobody's
because
arguing
the law
that.
said that they were. Then you shouldn't be trying to defend the 3/5
I'm not
compromise.
defending
That's the
it.
whole point
I'm
here.
explaining the-
That's
I'm
whole-
explaining
that's
the
whole
historic
point here.
context.
Hold on, listen to me. That's the whole point here.
Okay.
That's the whole point here,
Okay.
right? Black and brown people and slaves were literally less than human. They were considered 3/5 of a human being. They were considered 3/5 of a human. Okay, and so guess who still got jobs? The crackers. Guess who still got jobs? The
Why
poor
would this-
white people.
why- and what would
because
this have
they were
to
still
do-
seen as human
okay,
beings
so-
compared to African slaves
Why do you
and
keep
Mexican
muting me, dude?
peoples.
Stop muting me.
Because you keep
You're
talking
such a bad
over
faith.
me.
Well, dude, you won't even let me get 3
You're
words
in-
out. You
you're in
won't
bad
even
faith.
let
You
me
just-
get 3 words out before you
Oh
mute me.
man, I
Now,
need to turn down this phone because this is bad.
what about Peckerwood?
There we go.
Is Peckerwood racial?
Peckerwood. I haven't even heard Peckerwood.
You
What is
never
that?
heard the word Peckerwood?
Who's that for? No, not like
Can
that.
you look up the word?
Sure. Am I going on Urban Dictionary?
No. It's a very
Am I-
common
am I going-
anti-white slur.
Is a common anti-white slur. Hold on a minute. Let's see here. Peckerwood. Hold on a minute. Let's see here. Peckerwood. It says a white person, especially a poor one.
So when a black person
So that-
specifically uses this in order to create a class, hang on, in order to point out that you're a YT poor
Hold on a minute.
person, how's that not
Do you-
racially motivated?
Do you realize? Hold on. I don't think you just realized. You just proved my point even further. That's considered another classist term.
No, it's
That's
it's
considered
racially
another classist
it's
term.
racially charged.
That's not racially. It's literally.
Are you
for white
referring to a
people,
race?
Especially a poor
Are
one.
you referring to a
dude.
race?
It says here, white person, especially a poor one.
Yeah,
That's
so
classist,
are we
not
referring
racist.
to? So if I had a slur that referred to Chinese people as being poor Chinese people, let's say it was Ching Chong, would that be racist?
Dude, are they here in America?
Yeah, there's Chinese people here in America.
So you do realize they've said that to Chinese people, right?
Is it racist? Is my question.
It's racist, it's xenophobic.
Yeah.
Like, what are we talking
So
about?
then
'Cause
what you're doing?
here-
Hang on.
here's how I
Let me
know-
make the argument now.
Rico,
My turn to make the
Rico,
argument.
this is how-
You're just not
Rico,
letting me make
Rico,
the
Rico,
argument. You
Rico,
contradicted yourself.
Here's how I know. Here's how
Sir,
I know.
sir,
you're
sir, let me
arguing in
make
bad
the
faith.
argument.
No, argue.
You know,
Dude,
I'm not allowed to
here's
make
how I know-
arguments.
Rico,
Only you are.
Rico, this is how I know you're arguing in bad faith because rich white people have used Peckerwood as well. Rich white people have used Peckerwood
and
as well,
and
dude.
BLK people have used the hard ER before, dude.
Because they dude?
Dude.
They're black.
Yeah,
They're black.
Yeah, and they're white. So therefore, if they're white and they say it can't be racist, if you're black and you say it, you can't be racist. So if it's racially
Dude,
charged from the
you're
other
not
direction,
you're not
then it has to be
understanding
racist
this. You're
by
not-
your logic.
You're not, Rico,
No, you're not understanding, sir. Let me make the argument.
You're not understanding,
What,
dude.
you're just-
I
all you do is
made
cut me
I
off
made
when I'm
it
making
very
an
clear
argument.
for you. I made it very clear for you.
How do you
There's
know
a
what my
distinct
position even
difference.
is? You won't let me make the argument. Let me make the argument, then respond.
Go ahead.
If
Go
it's the
ahead,
case,
Rico.
you just contradicted yourself. If it's the case that
How?
you say, the hard ER, if BLK people say it, it's totally fine because they're part of that race. Then it would equally apply that it would be perfectly acceptable for YT people to say would or say the C word because they're part of that race as well. However, the second you say it becomes racially motivated is when the YT person says it back, but somehow it's not racially motivated when black people say it to white people, and it's only racially motivated when YT people say like ching chong to Chinese people, for instance, in order to produce, hey, this is like a low-class Chinese person. Somehow you're making the conflation that it is the case that it can only be class used against YT people instead of a racial motivation, and that is definitionally not true based on the definition you wrote or read. Now go ahead.
So, Rico, once again, you clearly have selective hearing because I have quite literally explained to you the origin of cracker and where it came from. Nobody was calling white people cracker. Nobody was calling white people cracker back then because they were white.
They
right?
do now.
They were calling. No.
Yes,
they
they
aren't.
do. Yes, they do. You're
So,
lying. You're
again,
just
hold on.
lying.
Hold on a
Yes,
minute.
they do.
Hold on a minute. Hold on. Stop. So, hold on. Are they dehumanizing white people by calling them crackers?
Yes, they're saying that they're low-class YT people.
No, they're not.
Lesser than
No, they're not.
themselves.
No, they're not. No,
Then-
they're not.
oh, yeah?
No,
Then
they're
why
not.
bring
And
class
you know they
into-
aren't.
Yes, they are.
Aren't.
Yes, they are.
They aren't, dude.
They are, dude. And by the way, dehumanization is not a necessity for this.
Nobody is dehumanizing white people by calling them cracker. You want to know why? You want to know why? You want to know why? Because there's no violence coming from that whatsoever.
That's
None.
not necessary to the definition you read, sir.
That's not necessary.
To the definition you read. Read it again.
To the definition I read that specifically says marginalized.
Doesn't say has to be violence.
Again,
You just
are
made
white
that
people,
up.
Are white people?
Does it
I
say
just
there
made
has
up
to be
marginalized?
violence? No, it doesn't. You just made that part up again. You just keep making up your new
Racism
addendums to
will
your own
always
definition.
be violence. What are you talking about? Racism will always be.
Then show me in the definition where that's the case.
Talking
Show
about?
me in the definition where it says that violence is a necessity for racism.
Why does it have to show up in the definition for it
Because
to,
otherwise
are you
you're
okay?
making new addendums to your own definition because you're losing this debate.
What is the What has been the history
The
of the United
etymology
States
doesn't matter.
prior
Your
to the Civil
definition
Rights
matters.
Act? What has been the history of the United States prior to the Civil Rights Act? all the racism that we saw unfold throughout the civil rights era, throughout segregation, throughout the Jim Crow era, throughout slavery. You're telling me that just because violence doesn't show up in the racism definition,
has nothing to do with your
doesn't
definition.
mean there was no violence?
I didn't say there was no violence. I said it's not a necessity to be racist.
You're implying because violence doesn't show up in the definition of racism
That
that
is
it
not
doesn't
necessary.
apply.
No, just as not necessary is a conditional for being racist. Why are you lying again? Repeat
Who's
back my
lying, dude?
repeat
These
back
are
my
your
argument.
words.
Repeat back what I actually
These are your words.
repeat back my actual position. Just steelman it. And I'll correct it if you're wrong. Go ahead.
What?
Steelman my position, and I'll correct you if you're wrong. If you don't know what a steelman
Dude, what
is,
do you
it
mean,
means.
dude?
I'll tell you what a steelman is. It means to give the most charitable version of what I'm arguing right now. That way, I know you understand it.
Because I brought up the fact that slurs literally can come from violent history of racism, you literally said, where does that come in the definition? Where does violence show up in the definition? And I'm telling you, it does not have to show up in the definition because the system of racism
This is
that
your
was set up
argument
in the
again. I
history of
want my argument in the most charitable way so that I know you understand it.
What do you mean in the most charitable
So, like,
way?
look, I'll give you your
I've been
argument.
literally following
Your
everything you've been
argument.
saying.
So here, like, I'll give you the most charitable version of your argument, and then I hope you'll do the same for me. What I see that you're arguing is that based on the etymology, the history, and the origin of these various words, these racially motivated attacks on various people, which are going on, those are done racially from YT people. They're not done to YT people because what's being referred to by the other people who are not YT is that this is class-based rather than being racially motivated. That's the most charitable way that I can possibly put out your view here. What about that is wrong?
So again, what I told you from the beginning, there's a distinct difference when it comes to the slur of cracker and the N-word and hard R and all those others.
I just said that.
I told you from the beginning. No, you didn't.
Yeah, I just
No, you
gave you. I
didn't.
just said that you're saying one is not racially motivated, it's class motivated. That's your point.
Because one literally begetted violence.
Now do the
compared
most
to
charitable
the
version
other.
of my argument so I know you understand it.
Dude, you trying to flip this shit is not.
I'm not even
working,
trying to
just so
flip
we're
anything.
clear.
I just want you to give me the charitable version of my argument like I did for you.
You don't want to comprehend what I'm saying,
How
so you're
can-
trying to say, oh,
how can it be
about
that I can
how about
repeat your argument, but you can't
how about I
repeat mine?
sample off of you?
How
Like,
can
what
I
are you
repeat your
like,
argument, but you can't repeat mine?
You didn't repeat my argument. You clearly did not listen to what I said. You did not repeat my
Bro,
argument.
the caveat for your argument is that it's class-based, not racially based, these slurs.
Crap, dude.
Is that
cracker
right?
Is class-based.
Okay,
That's
so
how
then
it
I was
started.
correct in your
That's
argument.
How it was used.
Then I was
That
correct
is
in your
how
argument.
It has always been
then
used.
I was
That
correct
is how
in
it
your
has always-
argument.
No, you weren't.
Then what did I get
You
wrong?
weren't. I specifically asked you what violence came out of somebody being called cracker.
Bro, that has
Throughout the history of America. Throughout the history of America.
What does that have to do with-
history?
what does that have to do with your
violence-
argument?
What violence has come out of calling a white person cracker?
It's
Please
not.
tell me.
It's not necessary for the definition you gave for what racism is, which is what we're arguing. Not the
What do you mean
history.
it's
Not the history
No
of
one
if people
said-
were violent.
nobody said it was necessary.
Then why
We're
are you
saying-
bringing
I
it up
literally
as though it is?
I literally stated to you, the system of oppression and racism that came throughout the history of America, they quite literally did it because they did not see them as human beings, thus led to violence. I continuously have
That's
said
nice,
this.
but it doesn't. Your definition doesn't include the necessity of violence.
It doesn't need to
It
include
does. If you're
Dude,
going to
no,
say
it
that you
doesn't.
have to
Stop,
have that in
stop,
order to be
stop,
racist.
stop,
Yes.
Stop. No, it doesn't. No, it
Well,
doesn't.
okay, well,
dude.
then
No, it doesn't.
So you're just
No,
going
it
to
doesn't.
addend your own
It doesn't.
definition so that it suits you.
What do you mean? Dude, what are you talking
Let
about?
me explain.
Now? No one.
Let me
no
expl-
one is using the
Here, I'll
definition how
explain.
they suit it.
The
I read it to you clear as day.
Yeah, except you left out, you omitted that there's no necessity for racism, for violence to be included. And the reason you keep bringing up violence is to justify racism from BLK people towards YT people. And that's why you're adding this addendum. And that's the only reason you're adding the addendum. And it's clear as day
What
for everyone
addendum?
viewing this that
What
violence is
addendum?
somehow a requirement for
What
racism.
addendum?
It's not.
Nobody said it was a
Then why are you
requirement.
bringing it up? We're talking about racism.
Because it still happened.
What does
No
that
one
do with
said
the
it's
definition
required.
of racism? Then tell me what's
Just
required.
because-
What's
just because
required
there
for
was
racism?
No violence anywhere else around the world doesn't mean the violence did not still happen here in America.
Then what's
It doesn't have
required
to
for
be a
you to be
requirement.
racist? Then what is required?
It does not have
then
to be.
what
Dude,
is
it
required?
does not have to be.
Then what
Dude,
is?
It does not have to be a requirement.
what
it
is?
still happened.
What
It
is the
still
requirement for
happened.
racism? The thing we're arguing.
I told you already. Dehumanization, period.
That's
the privilege
not-
that was there for white people in America. They were dehumanized. Do you know how many people were dehumanized
That is
during
not
segregation?
what your definition said. Your definition says prejudice, discrimination,
isn't
or
my
antagonism
Dude, this is not my
directed against a
definition. This is
person or
Oxford.
people.
This is not my definition. It is
Great.
Oxford's
And that's
definition.
the one you're using.
Dude, and you clearly are being selective. I literally said here, prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism.
Yes.
You continue wanting to stick with prejudice for some odd reason.
No,
and I don't know why.
Not just that.
I don't
How is
know
calling
why.
person the
I
C
don't
word
know
not
why.
antagonistic towards a race?
How is it Please tell me. Please tell me how is that antagonistic?
Because
Please.
you're saying that you are a low class YT person. Your race is now involved in that low class area of that. That's why.
Who started that?
Who cares?
Who started that?
Who cares? It's how it's used
No.
now. It's
Oh,
how
now-
it's
now
used
it's who
now.
cares? Now it's
it
who
was
cares?
always who
Now
cares. I
now
told
it's
you
who
the
cares.
etymology didn't matter. It's how it's
So
used
again,
right now.
Again, you want to know how I know? You want to know how I know who you saying you don't care who started it? Because that's exactly what poor white people did back then. They didn't fucking care that rich white people were calling them cracker back then
It
for being
doesn't
poor.
matter
But now
when we're
all of a
talking
sudden-
about
but now all of a
motivation
sudden-
now.
Now all of a sudden you care. Now all of a sudden you care if a black person calls you cracker when all it means is fucking poor because the
You mean
origin of it
100
has
years
always been
later?
classism.
100
Now you
years
want to
later?
play- Now you want to play victim and say, oh, you're experiencing reverse racism
Wait a
by
second.
a black person for simply calling you poor?
Do words change their meaning over time, like 100 years, for instance? Do they
What do you-
change their
what-
meaning?
what-
Like the
did
word
this
cool?
man just pivot?
Like the word cool?
Did this man just pivot?
No, there's no pivot. I'm staying
Lord have
completely on
mercy.
topic. And the thing is that the way it's used
Lord have
right
mercy.
now, right this second, by
Oh, Lord
BLK
have mercy.
people towards YT people, is to bring up that their race is low class. Or they wouldn't use it.
Nobody said their race is low caste.
Yes.
Dude,
then
nobody
why are
said
they
their race is
including
low
white?
caste.
Then why are they including white in it?
There are still rich white people. So who's calling the entire race
And
poor?
and they call them the C word too sometimes. What's your point?
The point is intersectionality. Do you know what intersectionality is?
I do. Do you?
Okay then, so you should fully understand the fucking difference
I
between
reject
a white person,
intersectionality. I
not
reject it.
A rich white person.
I
You
reject it. Yeah.
intersectionality?
Yes, of course. I reject intersectionality as being a mode and prism for which I need to view the world. What I see clear as day is by your definition, the one you gave me from Oxford, it's very clear that if a BLK person calls a rich white person the C word or a not rich white
who the
person the C word, then they're using racism.
This is interesting to me.
Oh,
I never
really?
heard nobody say they were.
You
I
never heard anybody
nobody
say that they reject that as a prism to view the world, like Jordan Peterson, for instance?
Yes, I ain't never heard that.
You never
But
heard Jordan
anyways, let's
Peterson
be
say
very
that?
clear. No, I don't.
No?
Anywho's right.
You never heard a famous
Anywho's.
psychologist who's on tour and talks to millions of people say that he rejects postmodern intersectional or intersectionalism as a prism to view the world?
So you do understand that there are white Christians and then there can be white Muslims, right? You do understand that?
Yeah.
That's intersectionality.
No, it's not.
And you're saying you're that's literally how intersectionality works.
No, it isn't.
When there are individuals in the same ethnic group, such as a white American, right? One can still be in a different religion.
Yeah, but
The same way,
intersectionality isn't doing
Christian,
that. Intersectionality is
be a
adjusting
white-
for
that's
equity.
that's
No, it's
that's
adjusting for
exactly-
equity between different groups by taking the
That's
race
not what
and
that
yes, it
is.
is. Look up the
That's
definition
not
right
what
now.
that is.
Look up the
Dude,
definition right
so-
this second.
So again,
look
oh
it up.
Lord have mercy. What the fuck, dude?
It's
should-
trying
I
to
really
make
shouldn't
it's
have
trying
to.
to make the adjustment of class equalization between racial and economic groups, and it's not a prism from which I view the world under the viewpoint of equity. Look for yourself.
Dude, that's not how that works.
Look for
What are you
yourself.
talking
Pull
about?
up the definition of intersectionality yourself.
That's not how that works.
Oh, it's how
That's
it works.
not.
Holding your head's not going to help you with this.
Intersectionality is a framework of understanding how different aspects of a person's identity, such as race, gender, class, and sexuality, overlap to create a unique experience of discrimination or privilege. So, like I said,
Continue.
What do you mean continue?
Yes,
that's the definition.
The entire point is to move towards equity between those groups. That's what intersectionality is trying to achieve.
Nowhere does it say. Nowhere in this does it say equity.
Yeah, where are you getting? Where are you getting this definition?
Nowhere. This is literally the easiest Google search of my life. Nowhere in this does it say equity.
From who?
Google. I just said I Googled this. I literally just said I Googled this. Are you okay?
Yeah, okay.
Matter of fact, dude, we have
so
like
Google
10
told you
people in
this,
here.
or is there like, I don't know, a source here? Like, is it AI? What is the source, bro? Google's not the source.
This is the Oxford
Google's
Language
not a
Dictionary. What are we
source.
talking about?
Google's for
God.
sources, dummy. It's not a source itself. It's not a
It's the
source.
same way.
Google source. I use Google as a
it's-
source.
Hold on. How do you think I looked up Peckerwood? How do you think I looked up Peckerwood?
No. I'm not asking you how you looked it up. I'm asking what the source is. You think Google's a source, bro? You think Google's a source?
You went with it. You went with it.
Yeah, that's not the source, bro.
Here, hold on. Okay. Oxford Language Dictionary. Here's what they said about intersectionality, right? The interconnected nature of social categorizations such as race, class, gender, as they apply to a given individual or group, regarded as creating overlapping and interdependent systems of discrimination and disadvantage.
You ready for this?
It's the same fucking
Hang on, you ready for this? I'm going to continue from where you left off. Hang on, I'm going to continue from where you left off.
That's the whole definition of the Oxford Language Dictionary.
Hang on.
Are you serious?
I'm going to turn on my camera and show this to you. Intersectionality is the understanding that different aspects of a person's identity, such as race, gender, class, overlap and create unique experiences of discrimination or privilege. You agree with that? That was your definition. It goes on to say, equity is the goal of ensuring the fair treatment and access of opportunity for all individuals, and this is what intersectionality is crucial to utilize as an analysis for. Anything else,
What
dude?
source is that? Is that Oxford Dictionary?
No, that's not from Oxford. This is from this. Yeah. Oh, calm down. I used Google. I
thought you said not to use Google.
It's a source, bro. I used Google.
You're using Google.
I used Google.
So because you crashed out over me using Google. Now you're going to use Google.
I'm just using the same source you are. Google.
No, I used Oxford now. I literally did what you wanted me to do. I went to an actual direct source, and which was Oxford Dictionary, and now you went to Google.
Equity requires intersectionality. True equity cannot be achieved without understanding the complex ways different identities intersect and are affected by systemic oppression. If you would like, we can look at.
What are you reading
We can
from?
look at. Well, this is intersectional equity or empowerment. Through intersectional diversity.
Time out.
Another one is navigating intersectionality through the United Providers of Health.
What are you reading from?
United Providers of Health. United Providers of Health. That's what I'm reading from. UPOH.org. A liberal rag. So you should love it.
So not an actual. So not a. You said on
that's
Google.
That's not a source.
It followed up with. Hold on. You said from Google. It followed up with equity.
Yes, that's correct.
That's what you said.
Yeah, how do you think that I navigated to where the source was? If you look down, by the way, at those little Google things, if you notice that little paperclip looking thing next to each paragraph breakdown and click it, it'll send you the source, bro.
It sends you multiple sources.
Yes.
It sends you multiple sources. So
now you know.
So again, which one of these followed up with equity?
I just told you. I just gave you two of them. Navigating Intersectionality of Health Equity by United Providers of Health. That equity is the requirement of intersectionality and the goal. It always has been.
So, Jesus, Lord have mercy.
Yeah, Lord should have mercy. Just not on me, on you.
So hold on. So again, right? So Rico.
Uh-huh.
Clearly, we're getting two different sources here. We have two different sources here, and what you are putting in must be something completely different.
Well, let's find out if that's true. What do you think the goal of intersectionality is?
There is no goal of intersectionality.
Oh, there's no goal.
It's
okay.
just
Why don't you
recognizing.
Then Google this, goal of intersectionality, and tell me what it says.
Why do you have to look up? You have to look up goal of intersectionality
Yeah,
in
look
order
it up.
for it to say equity for you?
It's going to say
Do
equity.
you know
Yeah.
how? In order for it to say equity for you, to fit your definition.
No,
of it,
it's just that's what intersectionality is for. It's for the purposes of equity. Otherwise, there would be no reason for the analysis in the first place.
Okay, so here, let's see here. Goal of intersectionality: to understand how differences, no, how different aspects of a person's identity, like race, gender, and class, combine to create equal experiences or of discrimination and privilege.
Equity.
You keep adding equity into that.
It is.
And it's not
about
saying
equity. Bro, it's about equity. What do you think it's about? What do you think you're using the analysis
Oh
for?
my God.
You're using the analysis
God.
to make judgments
so
about unequal or
so-
unequitable situations between different groups.
So hold on. So let me get this right.
Yeah.
So let me get this right.
Yeah.
Do you have a problem with equity?
Yes.
Why do you have a problem with equity?
Because equity is fundamentally Marxist in its analysis.
I need a drink. I'll be right back. Lord have mercy.
Go get a drink. You're going to need one for this breakdown.
Whoa. Okay.
Get a big drink.
We're gonna be here a while.
We sure are.
We gonna fucking be here a while. We are going to fucking be here a while.
We're going to be here a while.
Have mercy. Okay. Alrighty. Equity is Marxism now. Okay. Anywho's.
Well, it's a
Now-
Marxist analysis, yes.
Well,
Well, you have to understand, so that you understand, everything is set in the prism of worldviews for analysis. Marxism is a worldview analysis, which is saying that the proletariat is being oppressed by the bourgeoisie, and that the entire purpose of Marxism is to utilize a specific analysis in order to prevent the proletariat from being oppressed by the bourgeoisie. That's the point of the analysis. The point of the analysis of intersectionality is they're the oppressive overlords, like the rich or the people in charge. That's what the Marxists consider the bourgeoisie. Yeah. So anyway, that's an analysis, the Marxist theory analysis. Now, that's a simplified version, but that's essentially what it is. Intersectionality is an analysis worldview which is trying to figure out what are the social distinctions between the equitable treatments of different people in society, and how do those break down by class, gender, race, sex, all of that. And how do we adjust so that we have equity between them? That's the whole point of the analysis. Otherwise, it's useless.
So you don't want to adjust for it to have equity between them.
Well, when we're talking about equity specifically, I think that it picks for favorites. Like
It picks favorites.
Yes. Yep. So if it's
How does-
if it's the case that you run an analysis, for instance, and you feel that there's not enough equity between, I don't know, let's say weaker men and stronger men, there's not enough equity, then what would happen under the idea of intersectionality is that you would pass laws or try to make social changes and adjust social changes so that these weaker men now could stand up on a higher box so that they're at an equal level with the stronger men, using some type of like legislative process. In fact, the entire theory is usually broken down by saying the difference between equality and equity is that you're looking over a fence, and what equity does, it puts a box down so that you can see over the fence just like the tall guy next to you. That's the whole point of the breakdown, is to say there needs to be an adjustment made socially so that these people have additional opportunities that they don't believe are afforded to them based on the fact that, you know, there's sex or race or, you know, whatever distinction there is.
And you have a problem with that?
Yes, of course I have a problem with that. I believe in merit-based systems. I believe in merit-based systems, yes. I think that the best person should get the job based on their best merits.
But that's not the analogy you gave. You gave the strong guy at the fence and the weak guy getting a one-up.
Yeah, so I think the strong guy at the fence, right, I don't think that he should have to be making adjustments for the weak guy to look over the fence because the weak guy can't look over the fence.
Nobody said.
Yes, they do.
Nobody is forcing the strong guy to make adjustments.
Yes,
for the
they
weak
are.
Guy to be on
Yes,
the fence.
they are.
No, they aren't.
Yes, they are. That's the whole problem. And I'll give you an example of
That's
this.
not.
Do you
the
want an
problem.
example?
Whoa.
An example would be take police departments, for instance, which lower standards for women, and the military, which lowers standards for women. Meaning women have lower standards when it comes to training regiments than the men do for the same exact job.
Were you in the military?
That is equity.
Were you in the military?
Briefly, yes.
So for the brief time you were in the military or the police force, you're telling me that they intentionally lowered standards for women?
Yes.
What standards was that?
Oh, well, you can look them up right now. The PT training standards for women is different. Them graduating from various MOS schools, which those are completely different. They have different standards there. Same thing for the police department. They have different standards there as well.
And you said briefly. How brief are we talking here?
I don't know, about a year. We were talking about like 20 years ago. I think about a year.
You served in the military for just a year.
Yeah.
Talking about standards are being lowered for women.
Yeah, that's true.
So why did you leave?
I got a medical discharge.
You were medically discharged. So you were the weak one at that point.
What would that have to do with anything?
I mean, you just sat here. And
so you're saying that I couldn't meet the standards. So yeah, that's how that works. Yeah.
Right, and so the women are clearly.
So
still
nobody lowered
so
the standard. Did anybody lower the standards for me? No. You see how that works?
You were discharged, so clearly you couldn't serve anymore, though.
And they weren't going to lower the standards for me, right?
After a year.
And they weren't going to lower the standards for me?
What happened to you?
All right, were they going to lower the standards for me or not?
Depending on what.
No, they're not going to lower the standards for me, dude. Who cares what happened to me? It's irrelevant.
I mean,
it doesn't matter at all. It literally doesn't matter at all. The standards were not lowered to accommodate me, sir.
You quite literally just sat here and complained about the weak and the strong, or the weak getting a heads up and the strong had to make accommodations and shit. And then
who made accommodations for me?
1 year.
Yeah, who made accommodations for me?
After you served 1 year.
Yeah.
After you served 1 year.
Yeah.
You were considered weak. So wouldn't you agree with that?
Yes.
So you agree that you were too weak to serve anymore?
Yeah, I agree that I did not meet the medical standard necessary to serve in the United States military. Yes, of course.
Right. So then what the fuck you care if women are still in the military?
I'm not saying anything about women being in the military. I'm saying the standards are lowered for women to be in the military.
But what does it matter if you're still not serving anymore? Why the fuck do you
because
care?
They still serve me. What do you mean?
And they still serving you. Like, what the fuck? Like,
bro,
dude,
do you think
you ain't got shit to worry about anymore?
Do you think that lowering the standards for police officers, for instance, that lowering the standards for them, for female police officers to have the same beat job as male police officers, is doing society better favors or worse favors?
Beat jobs.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't know the process of the police academy or basic training.
Why don't you just look up the standards different? Why don't you just look up the standard difference between women and men when it comes to physical fitness in the police department? You can see that it's lower for women, even though they're supposed to do the same job of apprehending suspects. That's why they get disarmed so frequently and beat down by suspects so frequently, because the standards are lowered for them, and that's why the analysis is a weak analysis and why I don't believe in equity.
But that has nothing to do with intersectionality.
Yes, it does. Right? The whole reason they began lowered. What analysis did they use to determine that they needed to lower the standard for women, sir?
I don't fucking know.
Intersectionality. They used intersectionality.
That's not how that works.
It is how that works. It's exactly how it works.
Not.
Yes, it is.
It's not.
It is.
It's not.
Okay, how does it not work that way?
It's not, dude.
Then what standard did they use?
I literally just explained to you. It's simply just identifying the overlapping identities of an individual or an entire group.
For what purpose? For what purpose?
What do you mean for? It literally says to recognize the difference of discrimination and privilege.
Okay, now it's been recognized. Now that it's recognized, is there something you want to do about it, or are you just trying to recognize stuff, bro?
What do you mean? If there's something you want to do about it?
Yeah, is there something you want to do about it?
Intersectionality does.
Is do something about that, right? You're identifying. You're using this analysis.
Is this going into DEI? Wait, is this going into DEI?
Did I say a word about DEI?
Or no, because you're the one sitting here talking about equity.
I didn't say a word about DEI. Don't pivot. You're right here.
I'm not pivoting.
So here's the
You brought up
question.
equity.
I brought up equity, and what was the example I gave?
But again,
what was the example I gave?
The example you gave quite literally would have to do with DEI.
No, well,
would it not?
The example,
diversity, equity, and inclusion.
No, the example,
your whole hold on, your whole spitball.
Yeah, the example that I gave here is about whether or not you want to lower the standards.
Rico, your whole spitball here was that the strongest man has to accommodate for the weak one to have a higher chance, and the women they're lowering the standards for women are being lowered, and it's staying the same for men. That sounds like you trying to bring up DEI.
Well, but I didn't bring up DEI. I brought up a problem.
You didn't have to, but
with
that's
the
what
analysis.
It sounds like. I'm trying to understand here.
I brought up the problem with the analysis of intersectionality and why it is I don't believe in equity. And the reason I don't believe in
it's literally just an analysis. That's literally
here's
all
the
it
thing. What is the analysis being used for?
What do you mean? What the analysis is being used for? That's all it's being like. That's
What's your hat? What's your hat on
your
your head being used for?
My hat on my head?
Yes, what's it being used for?
To show my school? I'm confused.
Okay, so it has some use. Otherwise, you wouldn't have the hat, I assume?
To show off my school. I like
Great.
to show off.
So there's some use for it. So what is the use of intersectionality? What are we using it for, sir?
Dude,
what's its purpose? What's its purpose?
So again, right? Again, the whole point of this, of you saying that this is essentially equity, you're complaining about something that doesn't even apply to you anymore, right?
This has nothing to do with anything.
You literally.
So what? So what? Who cares if I served one day? That has no bearing on the argument. None. Zero. Zilch. Can you tell me, sir?
Oh, shit.
Can you tell me about the analysis?
Phone just die?
No, you're fine. I can hear you fine.
Oh, fuck. My phone just died.
No, his phone didn't die. His phone. How are you going to say my phone?